Alright, I'm going to hide the measurements and we'll start with the slots on the top. So let's take a look what we got here. These slots are not evenly spaced, it doesn't look like. They're telling me from one end it's 3 inches and starts, and they are typically 2-inch length slots, and it's 2.5 inches from one side. Okay, so right off the get-go it doesn't look evenly spaced at all to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this to look more evenly spaced. So we'll check this out. The key note here is going to be the 2.5 and the 3 to start, and they're starting over on this back side here. So let's take a look at our part. They're starting so it looks like my holes would be on this side for this. Oh, wait a minute. No, if I were, let's get this orientated. So what you can do to orientate yourself is switch to the top view. If I were to rotate this 90 degrees, the holes would be over here, and their slot was coming from over here. Okay, so I can do something a little bizarre here. I would create a position sketch from this edge to this edge. Select OK. Go normal to screen. We'll create an elongated hole, also known as a slot to some of us. Okay, I'll just create a slot and then constrain it later. So there's my slot. Again, I don't like the dimension it gives us, so I like to delete that one out, come back and auto constrain this. If you remember, I gave you a tip to auto constrain to a point. So ideally it should constrain from this vertical line to this line, but a lot of times it'll go to the tangent instead. If you were to create a constraint first, now I'm going to constrain this point to this horizontal line first. Okay, and then I'll highlight the whole thing. I'm going to give it kind of something to start with and then try an auto constrain. We will reference the vectors, the H and V vectors, and just pray for the best. So see how it dimensioned to that tangent line first, which I always thought was odd. It seems like it should know to grab the axis, but it doesn't. Let's make this pretty, chain dimension that. Okay, it's not a big deal. Just delete this constraint and then recreate a manual constraint. You were going to manual constrain it anyways before I showed you auto constraint. So here's your constraint to locate it, and if I look at the thing, it says 3 inches, and then they're 2 inches and 2.5 inches. So this number would be 2.5 inches, and then all the other numbers appear to be right. I could exit out of that, go into my ISO view, and then you notice it's way down on the bottom, right? Not a big deal, that can be down there. And we just go to the pocket command again and say up to last. Select OK. Alright, now that we got that slot in with that pocket, we can use another rectangular pattern. And for the reference element, I'm going to grab the top surface, and it's going to define H and V directions on the top surface. I'll invert the arrow, and I need 2 in this direction, and according to this, the distance is 2 inches apart for the slots, so we'll change that spacing to 2. I'll preview that. Notice I got too many slots going this way, so in the second direction we only want 2. I'll preview that. So we got the 2, but they're overlapping each other. So I'll go back to the directions. Where did I see that? Spacing is 6 inches from the first one to the last one. So I'm going to come over here and we'll go 6 inches. Select OK, and there's your slots. Alright, so that's how I got the slots in there. I'd use that same technique to get the holes. Now, one thing I don't like though, I think it's weird. So let's do a check here under tools. So unless you got something that it's lining up to and it needs to be this way, I wouldn't have done this. So just to make it more symmetrical looking, let's just take a look at what we were given and then see what we can modify. So I'll go to that center. Remember, you're grabbing the surface on the inside, not the edge to this center. And it's not giving me a distance, so I'm going to customize this to see if distance is on. It is. Why don't I see the distance showing up? Alright, I'll cancel that. So if that doesn't work, you can go back to measure between and grab the edge of the circle, which should find the center point, and then this face here. Oh, you know what I did? I put the measurements in hide. I put them on hide. So that's 1 1/4 over there. And I'll do the other one. Shouldn't have rotated that yet. Let's grab this inside surface to this outside. By the way, if you're having trouble rotating, let's say see how it's kind of rotating off the center here, off the part, but I want to rotate more here. If you middle click the button, you'll center that and then also set your center of rotation, so it makes it easier to rotate. And we'll zoom up here and grab this surface, and I'll click here and say OK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the previous measurements, so we can see that for some reason this slot comes out 1 1/4 on one side and 2 1/2 inches on the other side. And you can kind of see just by looking at the picture, this slot is much closer to this edge than over here. I think that's kind of odd. So what I'm going to do is change the distance on the first pocket. So I will double click this to go into the sketch, and I'm going to change this to 1 1/4 to match the other side. Problem is, when I exit and update, it's 1 1/4 on this, but now it's 2 1/2 on the other side. So how much do I got to add to get to the other side so that it's equal? Let's go to the rectangular pattern. And change the second direction of 6 inches to 5 inches. Preview that. That's getting too close, so I got to go the other way. So let's draw 7 inches and preview that. When I select OK, it should automatically update this. Notice it's at 1.5 inches. Oh, but we're going to the edge and not to the center point. So we want to make sure we're doing that correctly. So let's click on this and hit delete. Sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and go to measure between. Grab the inside of that surface to the outside here. That's 1 3/4. Select OK. I want them to be 1 1/4 on both ends, so I'll double click the rectangular pattern, and the second direction will change to 7.5. Preview that, select OK. Now the slots are 1 1/4 on both ends. I feel like it's a little too tight to the ends, so I'm going to modify this yet one more time. I will go to the sketch by another route. I'm going to double click the pocket, and I'm going to hit sketch here off the pop-up window. Okay, I can go to sketch, and I've accessed the sketch without double clicking the sketch. It does the exact same thing. Let's make that 1.5 inches. Select exit to exit the sketch. Select OK. Notice that this is 1.5 inches and now this is 1 inch because we got to go back to our rectangular pattern. Change the second direction from 7.5 back to 7. Preview that. Select OK. Now the slots are 1.5 inches from either side. Okay, that's going to conclude my demo for creating the slots on the top. The next demo, I'll create some holes over here. Alright, so next demo will be the 2 big holes. I'm going to go ahead and hide the measurements for now. And this is what I want you to modify your part to look like.